video is going to be about our embryo transfer in December of 2017 and what we kind of had to do up to that point. So after being told that we were accepted by the clinic in Connecticut as a surrogate, and I always say we, that means me and my husband, because we're in this together. I couldn't do this without my husband, and I wouldn't, be able to do it without his approval and his support. So when I say we in these videos, that's what I mean. I've noticed that I said it a lot, and I didn't really clarify. So there was a lot of medication that went into it, and thankfully we were given kind of like a calendar to follow, so it made it a lot easier. So I'm going to be kind of looking down probably quite a bit. I'm just reading over, the medications that we did and when we started them. After our appointment in September, I was told that I had extremely low vitamin D levels, so I was on a very high dose of vitamin D twice a day, which I'm still taking. I still have to take it. I'm still low on vitamin D. I am not somebody that goes out in the sun very often, and I don't tan, so, vitamin D and I are not friends. So it looks like I started my medications on November 5th, and then our egg transfer was on December 5th. So I did a full month of med cycling, and I had to do injections. So I'd also had to do birth control pills, and I had already been on them for just myself, for self-regulating, not for clinic purposes. So, otherwise you do need to take birth control for clinic purposes, as well as the prenatal that they have you take. I can't take prenatals that have iron in them. I react very badly to iron. I'm chronically anemic. I'm anemic in pregnancy as well. So there's not a whole lot I can do about that except for my diet, and I do try to get a lot of iron into my diet so that I'm not compromising anything, but I have a very, very hard time with iron. So I take a prenatal gummy because it's the only thing I can handle. So like I said, we started medications on November 5th, and it looks like I started doing an injection on that day, and that went into my belly. It was a very, very small needle. It doesn't hurt at all. Didn't feel it. I was an egg donor previously twice, and I had to do a similar injection, so I wasn't nervous for those. I'd already done them. They didn't scare me a single bit. So I did those for a while, and I had to have ultrasounds of my uterus frequently. I mean, more than once a week, I want to say, up through this whole process. We had to make sure I was responding to medication. I had to have my estrogen and progesterone levels checked at these appointments as well, just to make sure that my body was accepting the medications, because if your body doesn't react well enough to the medications, you'll have what's called a mock cycle or a dropped cycle, and at that point you're doing medication but there's no transfer at the end of it. And if for some reason your body doesn't respond well, they might decide to do another cycle where you then transfer at the end, and then they might decide that you can't do it as well. So the medication cycle is kind of, even though you've been accepted, the med cycle may say that you can't do it. So I'm looking at the 14th of November. It looks like I was still doing the belly injections, and then I started taking some estrogen as well. Again, we had blood work and an ultrasound. My estrogen increased. We had a lining check of my uterus. On November 28th, I stopped taking my belly injections, and from then I started doing progesterone injections. It's called progesterone in oil, or PIO, and I'll probably call it PIO for the rest because it's quite a name. And those ones were not near as fun. So those injections have to go into your hip. And okay, so my son woke up, so he's gonna be visiting for the video. This is Brayden. Brayden, how old are you? How old are you? Can you say 2? Say, Brayden is 2. His brother is napping, so he's going to join me just so I can get this video done real quick. So, like I was saying, my first PIO, I was able to have help with. I work in an ER, so thankfully one of the nurses that I work with was able to help me do it. It wasn't painful. My first one really wasn't. It was really easy. And I've been told that you can give them in the thigh or the arm. My clinic really only wanted you to use the hip, so that's where I did all of my injections. And I have a little card that I was given by our nurse at the time of our visit about how to do it, where to do it, and kind of the best technique. I'm going to put the link in the description for the website that they gave me that shows you how to do the PIOs in your hip. That way if you're curious you can see how I did it the whole time. I had to do these injections and prometrium tablets and estrase tablets all the way through until I was about 9 weeks pregnant. Generally you do it until about 12 weeks, but thankfully my levels all stayed really good and I was able to stop early. And after being tested without having everything for 3 days, I stayed at a good level. So I was able to stop doing them a little bit early, which I'm okay with. I'm thankful for. So we continued to do those, and then on December 5th, we had the embryo transfer. So we took a train from New York to Connecticut. We took the subway as well, and Jay ended up getting sick the day that we were supposed to leave. So he wasn't able to come, but W was able to come, and my husband came with. And it was the first time my husband and I had ever been on a train, and that was such an experience. It was awesome. I still have our ticket stubs, kind of held on to everything. I still have my bracelet from the embryo transfer. So we get there. I don't think I had any blood work that day. I don't think. We went upstairs and we were actually taken into like a surgical suite, which was a little bit intimidating and very surprising. And the biggest thing before an embryo transfer is that the surrogate has to drink a bunch of water. You have to have a pretty full bladder for the transfer, I suppose. It makes it easier to see the uterus. So, like I said, we had to have a full bladder for the transfer, and that was an experience in its own. They want you to start drinking an hour before the transfer so that when you go up, you're ready. So we all had to wear the surgical caps and shoes. I got into a hospital gown. They both had to wear surgical gowns. And he has a chest cold too. And we waited for a little bit. At this point, I'd been holding my bladder for, gosh, over an hour, and I had to go pretty badly. But you're not allowed to go pee until after. So, the nurse came in to take us back into our surgical room where the transfer was going to take place, and could tell right away that I had to pee pretty badly. So they did an ultrasound to see how full my bladder was. It was too full, so with some mercy, I was able to go to the bathroom. You can only go for, I can't remember how long, 10 seconds maybe. And the nurse was really funny. She always, every time she'd be like, more than that, I'm coming in to get you, but it's really hard to stop your bladder when you have to pee. It's hard to stop yourself from peeing. It was really difficult. Got back in the room, and she said, be another 5 minutes. They'd come in and ultrasound again, see how full my bladder was, and if anything changed in that amount of time, we were supposed to come get her. It didn't take long, and I was in pain. I hurt. So I asked my husband to please go get the nurse because I really had to go to the bathroom, and it was painful. She came in, she kind of laughed at me. She said, I'm not going to ultrasound you. You can go to the bathroom. Went to the bathroom again, finally came back. She said that they all had to fill up their bladders, and I think she said they had to hold it for 3 hours. So thankfully she understood and could be sympathetic. So then the doctor came in and we talked a little bit. He explained the process of what was going to happen. Our room was connected to a lab where an endocrinologist was getting the embryo ready, and we were able to watch on the screen as they sucked up the embryo into the transfer tube. So that was really interesting, and that was awesome for W to get to see. So he sets me up. I'm in stirrups. I am being ultrasounded from the outside, and I have, probably going to get a little gruesome here, I have a speculum inserted, and then they put a catheter in to open up the cervix so that they can put the embryo in. So we get everything set up, and then he kind of jokes a little bit, and he asks, you know, how bad do I have to go to the bathroom? Because they can let me go one more time. He could tell that I was pretty full on the ultrasound, or we could go ahead and get started. At that point, everything was pretty much ready except for the embryo, and I kept telling myself, you know, just 5 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes, and then you can go to the bathroom. I couldn't wait 5 more minutes. So he let me get up, and I was able to go to the bathroom one more time, went back in, was much more comfortable.
Mommy.
It's okay. We got everything set up again. It's okay. We got everything set up again, and then out came the little embryo in its tube, and we were guided by ultrasound from the outside on my belly. We were able to watch the embryo go into the uterus. I do have a picture of that, so I'm going to include that as well, because that was really cool. I wish that we'd have known ahead of time what it was going to look like, because then we could have filmed it, but we didn't. But W got to watch it. He got to watch, you know, baby go on in and get nestled in its home. So then from there, we traveled back to New York. I wasn't on any kind of restrictions or anything. It's been shown that bed rest following a transfer doesn't do any good, and it actually stresses the woman out, the surrogate out more. So they encourage you to do light activity. But while we were in New York, we did get to visit Times Square. We went at night. We went in the evening, and we got to visit Central Park. And Central Park is a lot bigger than I expected. You know, you see pictures of it, and it looks like this really nice little park located in central New York. It is not little. It is miles big. And there were interesting little sculptures everywhere. We visited an Alice in Wonderland sculpture. But I had remembered while we were there that there was a movie I used to watch when I was a child called Balto. And the statue for Balto was located in Central Park. So thankfully we were able to find it on like a map search, and we walked to it. It was hard to find. It was a lot of walking, but we were able to find it. So we flew home on December 6th, 2017. And on December 14th, 2017, I had my first beta HCG blood test. And at the time, my level was 86. So that was a positive. It confirmed a positive pregnancy. I wasn't super happy with that number. I felt like that was really low. But I was optimistic. I was hopeful that everything would go well and baby would continue to stick, and that we would have a baby, which put our due date at August 23rd, 2018. I'd stated earlier that I had 2 previous C-sections, so this clinic that I'm with doesn't allow for VBACing after 2. So we tentatively have a date of August 16th, 2017 for baby's arrival date. The clinic likes to go at 39 weeks. I'm going to try to push for 40. Unless something is, you know, not going well, I don't see the point of going a week early, but that's a little bit later down the road. But I think this is where I'm going to end the video. I do want to do a video of kind of everything after my first blood test on December 14th. We had an ultrasound shortly after that, and then earlier I had mentioned I was going to talk about January, but I think I'll include that in that one. We had some big stuff happen in January, so I'm going to talk about all of that again in a little bit, but I feel like this video is getting to be a little longer than I wanted. So I will hopefully try to get another one out tomorrow. These next ones should be quick as well, so we'll see.